Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America Trading, and thank you for tuning in to our most recent podcast episode on the secret war on cash, where we've been discussing some of the things that have been taking place in our financial markets and our economy that have had a very, in some cases, profound impact on households, families, their income, et cetera, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. And joining me, I have Chris Agelastos, my co-host. Good afternoon, Chris. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Well, great to have you. And, we have been talking about a lot over the course of the last several months about the impact or effect this current state of our economy and our financial markets and our financial system has had on households as it relates to, what it's costing them to put food on the table, what's
hmm
costing them to heat their home, perhaps heat or cool their home, depending on the time of year. And
Yeah.
the reason I wanted to talk about this today, Chris, we just received the current consumer price index data for February. And what it's showing, it was up 3.2%.
Yeah.
Okay, it's up to 3.2%. Now, the target they say that Fed is going for is 2%, which the average person may say, okay, well, 3.2% versus 2%, that's not a big difference. But when you put it in perspective of going from 2% to 3.2, that's over a 50% increase as it relates to how much it has gone up.
Yeah.
Now, the Fed expects consistent declines in inflation as evidence that their approach is working. That's what you'll see in the article that we're discussing here today. This being said, we have seen nothing for the last several years of the sort. We haven't seen even a hint that there's going to be any kind of decline in inflation. We've seen actually quite the opposite of that.
Yeah.
For 2 years now, the Fed has been increasing rates to try and slow down inflation. It just doesn't seem to be working. What this recent data that's come out about the CPI and what we see happening with what the Fed's doing, Chris, are we missing something here? Am I missing something here? Is it actually working? And I just don't see that.
I think the Fed might be missing something because they're certainly not making a positive impact. We've seen interest rates go up significantly, which again they did because they wanted to bring inflation down. And now, despite those high interest rates, it continues to either hold or creep up. And like you said, while the number doesn't sound high, 2% versus 3.2, percentage wise, that's huge, right? I mean, a 40-50% difference. I mean, if you saw that in your investment portfolio, that would shock you. And this is what people are seeing when they go to the grocery store. Their grocery bills are shocking them, all of their expenses. So yeah, what they're doing is not working. They should have curbed inflation more than they have. So, it leaves me wondering: are they really in control and driving the ship, or are things so bad that their adjustments just aren't having enough of an effect? And that, to me, is a little bit scarier, right? If they can't fix this problem, then maybe we're about to go off the rails here.
Sure. Well, and to that point, everything the Fed is saying they are looking to accomplish, when you look at the actual facts and figures, the exact opposite's happening. I do think that is reason that any of
Yeah.
us, all of us, should have concern.
Yeah.
And related to this, as we'll see in the second article that we're highlighting here today, consumer prices are up 19% since
hmm
Bidenomics began. 19%. That's
Yeah.
huge. And in this article, you can see a list of various items that went up, excluding food and energy, which has always been a mystery to me. Like, why do you exclude that? I mean, they are two of the most relevant expenses a household has, but yet most of the time you're, looking at any kind of inflation index. What they do is they omit ones that they think don't really apply or maybe went up a little more than they were supposed to.
Yeah.
It's always been, like I say, somewhat counterintuitive to me.
hmm
items that rose, notable increase over the last year, that is motor vehicle insurance. I saw in this article was up
Mhm.
over 20% actually. Medical care up 1.4%, recreation up 2%, personal care up 4%. I mean, these are big increases that we've been
Yeah.
seeing, and that was just over the last year, mind you, not since Bidenomics began. So,
Right.
I mean, is this yet as we talked about in the earlier article, is this another example of just how out of control this situation is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because these are again all those items. Those are real things that people have to purchase. And reading this, I was just thinking to myself, well, like you know what, my premiums have gone up on my auto insurance too. Our healthcare is costing us more and more. All of these things, and I'm sort of desensitized to it a little bit. I suppose I've just subconsciously I've kind of just accepted that this is the way it goes, and what choice do I really have but to accept it? But how much longer can this continue? At what point for each household do these increases become the straw that broke the camel's back? Right? That they just can't make ends meet anymore. And they talk about in here um, overall since Biden, I think it was January of 22, right? That prices have not fallen at all during that time period that he's been in office. So, I mean, I don't like to make everything a political thing, Trump versus Biden, but if you just look at the difference between the two, um, average inflation is up about 5.6% per year over that time period. And that's 3 times the increase in inflation that we saw while Trump was in office. So, is it the policy of President Trump versus President Biden? I don't know. But when you look at the numbers, they don't lie. And food costs are rising higher than wages. And again, he didn't mention any of this. I don't know if you noticed in the State of the Union speech the other night. Didn't really touch on that. He did blame corporate greed, saying that companies were, providing less foods in the bag. I think he was talking about Snickers and a bag of chips and all of that, and how corporate greed is causing them to give you more for less. But the fact of the matter is,
Give you
prices
less
are,
for more.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
less for more. Yeah.
For more, yeah. And but look, all these things are rising, and they make the point in here that did corporate greed not exist under Donald Trump or under previous administrations? I mean, companies have always tried to maximize their profits, no doubt. That's what they do. But I think him blaming the corporations is a convenient way to skirt what's really happening here.
Well, and I'll put it politely, and from my perspective or opinion, Chris, what Biden is saying, um, that would be, I guess, fine or valid if it were just, the food sector. But you're talking
Right.
about literally every sector
Yeah.
across the board, across the economy, where things just cost more. I mean,
Yeah.
that's if it is Snickers, that Snickers company is having to pay higher fuel costs to truck their Snickers across the country
Right.
or around the globe. Um,
Right.
they're having to pay higher medical perhaps or insurance costs to their workers, which
Yep.
in doing so they have to figure out a way to make up that difference. So I
Yeah.
think it's much of the numbers that we see that come out of the economy. There's two stories being told,
Hmm.
meaning we are living this reality of higher food costs, higher energy costs, higher everything costs, but we're being told by the likes of someone like Biden it's the best case is it's just companies being greedy versus the reality of what we're living in today. So I don't
Right.
think this is the last time we'll talk about rising food cost, energy cost, inflation. But going back to the previous article, I think what's of greatest concern to not just myself, perhaps you and many of the people who are tuning in, the Fed is failing. They are
Yeah.
not doing what they need to do to get this situation in control. And
Mhm.
worse yet, they have been making moves, but these moves don't seem to be helping one bit, which is why
Yeah.
this is a topic that I'm quite confident there will be more for us to cover in the weeks and months ahead throughout the course of 2024. So thanks
Yeah.
for all that information, Chris. And for those
Yep.
of you tuning in, we thank you for doing so. Feel free and contact our office if you have not already to get some of our information that will explain a little more, or perhaps a little more in depth, what the secret war on your cash is all about. You can do that by calling us at 1-800-289-2646, or visit us online at www.swissamerica. That's all one word, SWISS America.com. So, Chris, we'll be sure to have you on here again. And again, those of you tuning in, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please do so, and follow us on social media. We've constantly got new information that's coming out there. We'd love to stay in touch with you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.